welcome to Let's Be Real with me, Ben Hatchett. Today's guest,
Fatz.
What are we saying, Mr. Fatz or Fatz?
Everybody just calls me Fatz. It used to be Fat Boy, but
Yeah? Is that where it come from?
Yeah, I used to be called Fat Boy. I used to have a Nike Air Max high tops with it stitched in the top, Fat Boy. I used to think I was a bit of a gangster.
We all did. But did I say today's guest, you're from the same town as me, you're from Eastbourne. And,
yeah, been in Eastbourne like 15 years of my life, 16 years of my life, yeah.
I had to reach out because obviously I saw you on Instagram, like I did a big post, I sort of tried to put the pressure on, like I put a big thing, you know, Mr. Fatz, should we get him on? The reason I've done that because I've been watching your stuff for a little while now.
Yeah.
And I watched your live the other day as well. I watched some of that and I was really quite taken back by it. I was really quite inspired. I think the way you talk, and I think it's very positive. And, you know, but you haven't always lived a positive lifestyle, which we'll get into. And I think the most important thing is about having a platform. It's about bringing people on that people are going to connect to. And I think your story is very powerful. There's a lot of change in it.
Massive. And
I'm going to stop talking, I'm going to let you crack on. But thank you for coming today, my bro.
Thank you, I appreciate it, man. Like yourself, you know, every saint has a past, you know, and every sinner has a future. Mm-hmm. So it was drink and drugs for me. As far as I was drinking every single day, like 8 AM. People see me now, they're like, hey, there's that Fatz guy, he's always happy, he's always smiling, he's always helping people. You know, I've helped children's charities, I've helped do live shows, I go help homeless sometimes just because it makes me feel good and I help others.
But it wasn't always like that.
No.
Let's go back. I've already said Eastbourne, but tell us about, you know, where you grew up.
So I grew up in London, alcoholic father, abusive, used to just beat my mother, and we had to go into like hostels and move around. We used to move around a lot. So I never got really comfortable in too many places. So that was hard in school. I used to get bullied a lot, I used to get beaten up a lot, so I used to pretend I was ill to stay off school because I was just scared of school. And I think when I was living in Mitcham, it was like when at a really young age, the first time that I realised that I wanted to die. I didn't want to go to school. And I never really spoke to people about it, but yeah, it was, I remember once I had a little blade, a little like a Swiss Army knife.
The little red one.
Yeah.
I remember them, yeah.
And as a young kid, I remember like, I could do it, I could slit my wrist. And I don't know where I got it from, but I was like, I could just die. And I remember going into school and telling a girl that I know, and she just gave me a cuddle and she was like, it's going to be okay. But before that, there was always panic attacks, but I didn't know what they was. But my mum knew. I suffered from panic attacks as a kid because of all the shit that my father put us through.
I still suffer from now panic attacks, man. It's a serious thing, bro.
Fucking horrible.
It's underrated in the mental health scene as well, the anxiety and panic attacks.
Every time that I get anxious, I'm like, I can't do it. And it weren't too long ago that I was taking like calms tablets, like about a handful, like just to calm me down. Like I don't want to have a panic attack. I don't want to think anymore. And it's hard.
Where do you think this all comes from? The traumatic and the bullying?
Yeah, I used to get bullied a lot. So they'd wait for me at the bus stop. And where all the cool kids and that, because I was a bit of a loser, I just wanted to make people laugh, but I didn't really have too many friends. And they'd wait for me at the bus stop, and then when I get to the bus stop, they'd just beat me up. And then I wouldn't get on the bus because all the cool kids got on the bus, so it got to a point that I'd walk all the way home. And you're talking a good 2-3 miles home, but just so I didn't get beaten up, I'd go do it. And my mother was always a struggling mother. She raised us as well as she could, and she done a really great job. A strong woman. But with a father like that, I always said to myself, I'd never be a man like he was. And then I found alcohol, I turned into just the man he was, sort of thing.
Where did you find the alcohol? Are you still in London at this point? Or
Nah, so from there we moved down to Cornwall, just to get away from everything. London lad in Cornwall didn't work out too well for me. They're all like farmer lads or you know, surfers. Yeah. And I was rocking up with my Ben Sherman and little tie. So I thought, and I was like, right, this
must
is my
like spoke you, the lingo, your accent must be that as well. Yeah.
So I'm like, right, now I can be the cool kid. I'm not going to get bullied anymore. I'm going to be the cool kid. And I remember wearing my Ben Sherman shoes. They're shined up and I got the little tie.
Big up Ben Sherman.
Yeah. And I rocked in and they're all in boots because they're farmer kids or surfers and they've got long hair. And I'm like, fuck, I'm not fitting in again. So they're all smoking weed and I don't smoke. I've never really smoked in my life. So I didn't fit in again, so I was a bit of a loser kid there. So I kept myself to myself for a bit and then we moved to Eastbourne.
How old were you when you moved to Eastbourne?
Well, I was just before my 16th birthday. And yeah, I didn't really get into know anybody because I only did 3 hours a week at school, because being in London to move down to Cornwall, and those are the main years, like years 9, 10, 11, all the GCSEs. Time I moved to Eastbourne, I was like, just do your maths and English and leave.
What school did you go to Eastbourne?
Willingdon.
Willingdon?
Yeah.
Hammond Parkway, isn't it? Willingdon?
Yeah, up the top, yeah. So I did 3 hours a week, but they put me in years 9 and 10 just to do the English and maths.
Yeah.
So there wasn't enough time to make friends. So the only friends I made were on the estate. One lad come up to me one day, I was just randomly walking.
What estate?
Kingsmere.
Kingsmere.
Yeah, Kingsmere in Eastbourne. So one lad just randomly come up to me one day and goes, "You got 50p?" And back then I was still a scared lad. I was like, fucking hell, I'm going to get beaten up, I'm going to get bullied all the time. And then Richie Foyle, Ashley's brother.
Yeah. Ashley, a good friend of mine. He's did really well. Man.
Yeah, so Ashley, I grew up with Ashley, Richie.
His birthday yesterday as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wished him happy birthday. So how you doing, man? But yeah, Richie, come on, we got 50p. It was, "You got 50p, bruv?" Like, yeah, you go. And then started talking to him, started talking to some others on the estate and that. But yeah, I was still quite a lad. And then alcohol. As soon as I found alcohol, I found confidence. And when I found confidence, I found violence. And then that was from 16. I'd say I started drinking about 17 because I didn't want to get to 17 and be a virgin. So I found sex. And then alcohol and sex just led me off the rails for years.
Let me say, because I relate to some of the stories. Wow, I actually wanted to get you on. I think once you start, obviously me, it's a similar story. But once you sort of like get involved with the crowd and the drinking, that's when you start getting attention of the girls. Like when you start getting about the violence.
Yeah.
Is that what you sort of found? So it was sort of that lifestyle has been different to what you had to now. It's like you're living what you wanted to be like the other guys. Do you know what I'm saying?
I always wanted to be a cool kid. I just hated the idea of being bullied and being a nobody. So when I had the alcohol, first it was alcohol. I never touched any drugs because I never smoked, so they was all smoking weed. But yeah, so it was just alcohol. So I used to just drink until I was really confident. Then I was really loud. Then I was really angry. But people like that because I was confident. So they like somebody in the room who's got confidence.
Yeah.
And then you start mixing with different people, mixing wrong people. You go to parties, then there's violence, and then people hate people, and then there's dramas, and you're like, fuck it. And then somebody says to you one time, "Hey, try ecstasy." And I'm like, "Yeah, cool, why not?" Bang. Just all down.
Let's talk about the violence. Do you remember the first time you fought back, like the first time you was violent?
Yeah, so violence was always drunk for me. So it'd be the next day, somebody would come up to me like, "Fatz, bro, I remember seeing you last night and you was fighting all these guys." I'm like, I can't remember none of it. And it'd be just like people telling me what I've done. And I'm like, fucking hell, I don't even know who I had a fight with. I'd get phone calls like, "You fucking done this, I'm gonna fucking kill you, you fucked my missus." Like, alright, join the list of people who don't like me right now. So I didn't care. I just wanted to get drunk.
Yeah.
And then that became into more of an alcohol thing. So it was just
like an escapism, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
massively.
Escapism, yeah.
I mean, years ago when my father was around, I'd fight in school because there was violence at home. But when we ran away from him, at a young age, so he went in and out of prison, we'd always go visit him. But at a young age, Mum got us out of that domestic violence. We ran away when he was in jail. So when he come out, he couldn't find us. So, big respect to Mum to get us out of that situation. But when he wasn't around, there was no violence around. So I started to withdraw from violence and I just got scared all the time. And then that's when I got bullied. So when I found alcohol in Eastbourne, 17, 18, and that boom, for years. I must say from 17, 18, I'd say up to about 23, 24, I was just a fucking idiot. Yeah. Just hurting people all the time.
When did the drug, like you said about ecstasy, because I've already talked on your Instagram, I've already talked about the ecstasy, that was like the main one for you. So tell us the first time that you took that ecstasy tablet. Yeah,
so a few people I knew had taken ecstasy and I'd never taken any sort of drug. No ecstasy, no coke, even weed, I'd never really smoked it. So I was like, yeah, I'll try ecstasy, why not? So we went downtown, Eastbourne Town Centre, picked up these ecstasy tablets, and they was like, "Oh, you should have took half." And I was like, I took the whole full ecstasy. And I was like, it's only a tablet, it's not going to do nothing. And I remember getting to like big Tesco's in Eastbourne, and we just went to McDonald's to get some chips and a burger, and then it was me and my pal. He just lugged me on the back of a bike. I must have been 17, 18 at the time, and I sat down outside Tesco's, looked up at the light and I was like, I can't eat. What's going on? And that was it. I was tripped.
It started coming,
Yeah, and then you feel your whole body tingle. And it's like, when you first take ecstasy, that is the most amazing feeling in the world. Even when you take coke, you get that all through your body. But for me, it was the first time I ever tried any drug, and I was like, oh shit, this is amazing.
You're confident when they're saying that. You're confident.
Yeah.
It's always confidence foods. No, I've done ecstasy. Mine was Whitney wrecked the first time I done mine.
Fucking hell.
So, and I know like the confidence that can give you that first rush, that sort of like, you know. So imagine if you was always seeking that confidence, ecstasy taken out. I can imagine how the two just sort of...
For me, you know, always being that kind of shy kid, so it was the alcohol that gave me that confidence at first, but ecstasy, you still got the control. Where alcohol, you black out at some point, or you just lose control and you just, you know, you fuck up. But ecstasy, you've still got a sort of control. You're still mentally there. So, you know, that night was a bit nuts for me. Like, I tried to walk from Tesco's, big Tesco's, back to Kingsmere, and that took ages. I was like, we got to wait for the cars not to be at the road. Wow. People were holding my hand like, Fatz, what you doing? And I was like, don't cross, shouting. Like, in my head I was tripping. I was like, bro, and then that night, then they got the come down, which was fine, because I didn't really suffer too much from come downs, because I never had much of it, and the mental health was okay back then, because I didn't care.
So what did you think like, the day after the ecstasy? Can you remember sort of like...
The day after the ecstasy, I was a bit like, wow, I can't believe I've done it. Can't wait to do it again, because I was still excited. So I wasn't really thinking about come downs, and my mood was still kind of like level. But after keep doing it, and after more violent, more issues like ecstasy, it would come. I tried it once. A few weeks later, I tried it again. Then I got in with a friend from Newcastle, and then we'd go out and we'd try and sneak into clubs, but we'd do the ecstasy. And I remember being in, do you remember function rooms when it was House of Commons?
That's how I saw about House of Commons.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I remember getting into there. I think I was...
They did like the under 18 nights and all that as well. I think that's what it was,
I snuck in when I was 17 to one of their over 18 nights. Everybody in there I knew that was on ecstasy. And I remember being in there with my shirt open, and I was 17 years old, and I was like, yeah, come on, I'm 17, I'm the man. And they're like, this bouncer, like, I was leaning against the bar, and I was like, yeah, and I got the shirt open. I was like, oh, in no good shape, and I just like titties and that out. White lady. And then the bouncer was standing next to me. He goes, "You all right?" I went, "Oh no!" I really like baited myself up, and then I was like, I ran away from them, but they didn't kick me out. They knew everybody was fucked. But yeah, I loved that because I felt accepted. People in there on drugs. I'm on drugs. I'm confident. People like me because I'm confident. And it just kind of escalated from there, and then cocaine as well. But ecstasy I used to do every week. It got to a weekly thing. Friday and Saturday, pick up pills. I don't care if I was sitting at home or I was going down the beach, I'd just take ecstasy and a crate of Stella. Wash it down with a crate of Stella. You get a crate of Stella back then, we got like 2 for 20 quid or 3 for 20 quid, and they was actually big bottles. Now they've shrunk them down.
Well, we used to do the crate runs. Did you ever do the crate runs?
Yeah, I bought bottles of vodka for me.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so I used to get really violent on vodka.
Yeah.
But they're easier to steal. So back then you'd be like, fuck it, let's go into the Asda, we'll go into any shop, steal a load of bottles, go down the beach, get fucked up, get some ecstasy because you've got money for drugs, and then you're back into it.
Yeah.
And then it'd just be like, which women can we fuck? And then you just get on your phone, you know, girl 1, girl 2, girl 3, and you're just reaching out like, what are you doing tonight? What are you doing tonight? What are you doing tonight? And be like, yeah, you want to get fucked up? You want to get fucked up? If you couldn't do that, you'd find violence. But yeah, as soon as I could go into the clubs, it just escalated worse. I left ecstasy alone a bit and got onto cocaine.
So how did the cocaine come about? How did you first start getting onto the coke?
I can't remember my first experience on coke, but I remember being in Atlantis nightclub.
Into the pier?
Yeah, when they had the cages.
Yeah, the cages, tacky cages.
Oh, they were horrible.
Because obviously I went to prison mostly after 18, and I was quite young looking. Yeah. Which is a good thing now, but when I was like 16, 17, that's, I mean, I like that now, but when I was like 16, 17, I hated it because like, there's no way of sneaking in. Like the bars, okay, but... So with these sort of clubs, they used to do like the under 18s. Yeah. That's known to my scope, because I was like 15, 16, because I went to prison young. But yeah, we used to go there, but it was the same sort of thing. You used to pop the tablets, go in there and get drunk and coke and all that. Like, I did sneak in a few times, but no, mine was always sort of on the... But I remember Atlantis, I remember the fucking cages.
The amount of times I'd be in there, sniffed off my nut. Again, the shirt would be open again. I don't know why. I just...
Yeah, the thing about the shirt,
the confidence just comes out. I'm like, come on, ladies, I'm the man right now. And it would only be the drink or the drugs. Because usually I'd be like, oh, don't talk to me, leave me alone. I'm scared. But yeah, and then, so that was roughly about 18 years old. And from there, it was just cocaine, nights out, violence. So if I couldn't talk to a woman, or me and my friends couldn't talk to women, we're like, who can we fight with? We just walk into like a dance floor. Who are you fucking barging into? And just start attacking people for no fucking reason, and that turns you into a horrible person.
And you get the reputation, you get the name.
Yeah, so people used to be like, you know, Fatz, and you know, it's people used to look up to me, but they weren't. They weren't looking up to me. They weren't friends of mine. They just cared about my reputation or where I used to fight people all the time. And back then, I used to think I was a hard little bastard. You know?
Where do you think about it? Do you think? I'm asking this for a reason because I relate to it. You see, when you sort of found yourself. This is just me talking a minute. So if you just found yourself, like, you've come from that background, you've come from that bullying background, you've sort of found, I won't say you found yourself, but at the time you sort of found yourself, like, you get confidence, you get the attention of girls, you've got so-called friends, like, you're getting your reputation, you've sort of, like, made it in your head, do you know what I mean? You've sort of, like, but you see the violence. Where do you think the violence was really coming from? Like when you were sort of releasing, do you think it was coming from that sort of traumatic like anger, or do you think it was coming from just sort of trying to be the man? Like where do you really think that sort of?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to be the man because I've been beaten up my whole life, or I just see my dad beating up my mum my whole life. It'd be my way of fighting back, but I would never really want to fight sober. I'd be so scared to fight sober because I'd just get beaten up. In my head, I'm like, they're just gonna beat me up like everybody else has. When I'm drunk or I'm on drugs, I don't care if I'm going to get hurt. So, you know, I remember it was in the Atlantis dance floor. Somebody barged into my friend's girlfriend. She pushed him back. And then he tried to come for her. And that was it. I just strangled him. And I threw him on the floor. And I was just trying to strangle him. And in my head, I was like, just kill him. That's it. Just kill him. And because I was drunk and on drugs, I was like, fuck it. Just kill him. And then as I was doing that, a friend of mine come in and started punching him in the face. But, that could have went a very bad way for me. Imagine I did take that person out, but in my head I'm like, fuck it.
You'd be doing last
and the whole dance all emptied and we all got chucked out and luckily the kid was alright and that, but in my head at the time I was like, fuck it, who cares? So on the drinking drugs, it was just, I didn't care about the people I'm attacking, I don't care. When I got arrested and done for offensive weapon, that was a police baton. There was a party, I was with a girl, I kissed another girl, her cousin seen. He was like, you're with my friend. And then I had a problem with them. A few years later, we seen these other lads at the party who beat me up at the beach. So me and my friends were like, fuck it, those are the guys you had a fight with, right? And I was like, yeah. And I had a police baton on me, so we had this big argument, this big fight. And it escalated from there, went down the road, there was loads of threatening. Somebody called the police in their pocket. Ran back to the party and that was it. I got arrested for offensive weapon. Luckily there was no like ABH or GBHs and nothing like that. It was just the offensive weapon that I got charged with. But yeah, then I had to do the community service for the offensive weapon. No, that was the tag for the offensive weapon.
The tag.
Yeah, so I was
Did you stick to the tag?
No, I breached it once. Yeah, and that's when I went back to court, and because I've been in and out of court for stupid little crimes and little violences, little drunk offences or criminal damage, just stupidness. When I went back to court, they're like, "You're a persistent young offender. You've now breached the tag that they've given you." And then they said to me, like, my sister was like, "You're going down today." I was like, "Shut up, no, I'm not. Don't be stupid."
How old was you at this point?
Got to be like 19, 20, something like that. So yeah, I'd already been out drinking and going to clubs and being stupid, but I still didn't learn no lessons. I was still young, full of cum and stupid, you know. But being a persistent young offender, they were saying to me like, "You've been arrested for all this shit, all these like little robberies or burglaries or car thefts or whatever they are." And I was like, "Shit, I might go to jail."
How does that make you feel? What was going through you when you actually realised, like, today I'm actually going, like, because you've been young offenders then as well. Like, they're a lot more lively, you know.
I was like 19, so I would have been to jail, normal jail, wouldn't I? Or would I have gone to?
There's like, you've got 18 to 21, but sometimes, if you're over 18, it's still continues like Lewis or like.
I didn't have a fucking clue at that point. I didn't know nothing about jail. The only thing I thought was, my mum's going to be so unhappy if I go to jail. Because all I cared about was my mum. So, like, because my mum went through so much shit, there was a point in my life, as a kid, all I cared about was protecting her, and that's one of the things that really hurt me over the years. That I'd do all these crimes, I'd get in so much trouble. I pawned the necklace that my mum bought me for my birthday to buy more drink and drugs. That's all I cared about, and I'd always be breaking her heart, and that really affected me. There was a point in my life where I used to sneak into her room this was after we left my dad, I used to sneak into our room and sleep on the end of the bed on the floor, just so I know my mum's alright for the night. And I'd be sleeping on the floor. She'd wake up in the morning, like, what are you doing? I'd be like, I just wanted to make sure you're alright, mum. So yeah, shit like that, I'd be like, oh fucking hell, if I'm gonna get sent down today, that's gonna break her heart. And that was the only thing that worried me. I didn't mind going to jail, I didn't mind fucking up my life, but hurting my mum was one of the biggest things. And you know, later in life, when I always thought about suicide and shit like that, I was like, the only person I'd never want to hurt is my mum, because she went through so much shit.
Man, it's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah.
So what was the outcome of that day? That day at call?
They just said we're adding more time onto your tag, which was fine. I just drank at home, really. And I was working at Sports Direct at the time, but being a young fucking idiot, I was going to Sports Direct in shorts, wearing a tag, folding my sock over the tag, and still serving customers. And they're like, "Fucking hell!" And I was still drinking. I was drinking alcohol while I was working.
Yeah.
I just didn't care. When any of the managers come to smoke me, I'd just tell them fuck off. And because I was so rude and aggressive, they'd find it hard to discipline me or things like that. Which is nuts. But I was just so angry at the world. I didn't care about nothing else. It was drink all day, every day. I don't care if I'm working. Most times. There was a point that I didn't have work, so I'd drink all day, every day, and I knew I had a drink problem. One time when I didn't have a job, so I think I was on Job Seekers. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd just woken up. I cracked open a Foster's, made myself sick, drank Foster's, had the shakes, and I was like, all right, you probably got an issue now, bro. And that was like a kind of continuous thing. I'd drink during the day, and I'd think that'd be normal, that'd be okay. You'd have the shakes if you didn't drink. You'd be sick if you didn't drink, and that's when you know you're starting to become dependent on it. Yeah. And a lot of people see me now, they're like, you didn't live that life. I'm like, bro, I'm not always this loving person, you know.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on, because I know bits of your story, and that's why I think it's a powerful story. But we'll get on to the change. But there's one word I heard you say, and I think this is going to be quite powerful. I heard you say about suicide, the thinking of suicide.
So since a young age, I don't know why it would come into my head, but I just didn't want to get bullied anymore. I didn't want to, you know, live in a household where there was violence. So when my dad was around, there wasn't thoughts of suicide because it was a young age, but when he was gone, I was feeling a bit older, and then that time with the Swiss Army knife, I was like, well, I could slit my wrist. That left me for a long time.
Have you ever self-harmed? Well, I suppose the drink is a form of self-harm, but I mean, did you ever do you know what I mean? Did you ever experiment in sort of self-harm?
Yeah, I've never really spoken about it, but when I lived in Cornwall, I used to cut the inside of my arm. And I've never really...
And you must have been young then as well.
Well, 15. Or I cut the inside of my leg. Nothing, you know, they're not going to leave scars, but it was the idea of making yourself bleed. And I was looking at it and I was like, why am I doing this? But in my head it'd be like, because you deserve it. And I'd just do it. And it happened for, I'd say, about 6 months. Every few weeks or something, I'd just cut myself. I'd sit there cutting myself, making myself bleed, and I'd think to myself, why the fuck am I doing it? But I'd get angry and upset about it, and I'd be like,
When did it's powerful, it's been real talking about it, that's what it's all about. So right now, so you're not in work and you're drinking 8 o'clock in the morning, you're getting the shakes. Where was the turning point? Because there must have been a big turning point, because where you're at now, and we'll get onto that, but like, where was the turning point?
So I carried on with drinking drugs, carried on nights out, carried on with a lot of violence, constant arrests. I then had to do community service for an attempted car theft.
I tried community service.
Well, painting a fucking fence or shoveling.
I had to paint the fences. When I painted the fences, I'm trying to remember I painted this. I did my bit for Eastbourne.
I did a year of community service. I was like, fucking hell. The amount of stones I've shoveled from a paving to the beach, like, fuck off. But yeah, the turning point was a night out in Brighton. After all this and, you know, suicidal thoughts and just wanting to die a lot, there's been a few times that I've been on the edge. But going through Brighton, I was ready to just spend... I had £200 in my pocket, and it was a night out in Brighton, ready to drink and have a good time. And I was like, oh, maybe I should get a couple of bags of coke here, maybe we'll have a good time. And I think we was going to the club Shush on the seafront.
I've never really went to Brighton. I've been to Brighton, but I don't really know the clubs and all that.
It's just on the seafront.
But the Brighton, all the Brighton followers, I'm sure they'll know, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was walking along the seafront, and I don't know what come into my head, but I seen two homeless people on the floor on the right hand side, and I seen a fish and chip shop on the left hand side. And I had £200, £20 could have fed them both, but I didn't do it. I was like, fuck it, I'm with the lads, we're all laughing, we've had some drinks, and we're like, it's a night out. And it bothered me so much that the following weekend, that I went back up there. I was like, I just bought loads of hats, scarves, gloves, food, water off of eBay, like bulk sale. And
you're still going through the drink, drugs, antisocial behaviour. You're still going through that, but then something
said that you can help someone. Yeah.
You've gone up there literally the next week. You've gone up there with bulk load of.
So I had an argument at the Shush Club. It bothered me all night, and I overthought it, and I'm a massive overthinker. I kept thinking about the two homeless people and how £20 could have fed them. So I started arguing with my friends in the club. This is a shit night. Fuck, this place stinks of piss. Fuck it. I'm gonna sit and I ended up leaving early. And I think it was the following day. I went onto eBay and I was like, I bought all this stuff, like wholesale stuff.
Yeah.
And it cost less than a night. It cost me something like just over £100 to buy all this stuff. I filled up a duffel bag and I said to one of my pals from Eastbourne, I was like, look, his name's Owen. I said, do you mind coming up to Brighton with me? I've got this stuff that I want to give it to homeless people. He was like, yeah, why? And I was like, I don't know. I just want to do it. And when I went up there to do this,
Who took you up there?
Me and a friend called Owen Farrell.
Should we give him a shout out?
Yeah, Owen Farrell. He come up. Yeah, he come up.
You know what I mean? It's a big part of your change. It's a big Owen, man.
Yeah, man. He come up and he said, yeah, I'll come with you. So back then I was still not driving because I was just always angry. I didn't want to drive. I was just drinking and drugs. I had no time for lessons. Fuck that. But I was angry I didn't drive. And I was angry at everybody else I didn't drive.
So I'm about the minute, I'm angry I can't drive.
Wow.
Someone else's fault is covers all this.
Oh mate, the amount of times I've blamed everybody for everything. So we got on the train, we went up there and I counted 18 homeless people I spoke to. Not all of them wanted something, just they wanted some tissue because I got them tissue, they wanted a lighter, so I just had like 2 duffel bags full of stuff and afterwards when I posted it on social media and the amount of love and support I got from that was similar to the love and support I'd get the following day when somebody was like, oh hey, remember that fight you had last night and you fucked up that person, or remember that bird you fucked? Like, wait a minute, well, if people can appreciate the bad shit that I do, people can appreciate the good shit I do, but I don't have the hangover, I don't have the drama, I don't have the violence, and I don't have the criminal record. But I'm still doing something that I can get love and appreciation from, and it makes you feel good as a person, it helps you grow.
How does that make you, like, when you've gone up there and you give these stuff, was you confident in doing it?
It was scary at first to talk to somebody on the street.
To go up and be like, yo, I've got some stuff. Like,
yeah.
Or did you find it naturally? How?
The first approaching somebody, it was a bit like, hey, how are you? I'm Fatz and I just want to give you some stuff if you don't mind. They was like, why are you doing it? I was like, I just want to help. And then, and after the first few people, and then you get talking to them, you're like, one lady was telling me that 2 drunk men tried to piss on her after a night out. And I was like, that's fucking heartbreaking. But in my head, I'm like, wait,
but you know what? Like, bro, that is literally, that is that sort of life. You see it, and I've spoke with people with the, like, it is like, you look at these people, you feel homeless and all that, and people have their opinions, but they don't understand. They're like, you don't know how they're living.
No.
And could you imagine that? I was just literally putting myself down. Could you imagine that as your mum, that as your sister and all that was going through whatever, and you got 2 drunk guys sitting there trying to piss on them? It's fucked up.
It's fucking horrible. Some of their stories. One lady, she ran away from an abusive fellow, and I was like, wait a minute, my mum ran away from an abusive fellow, but she ended up on the streets because she was in the wrong town. I was like, fuck. That could have been my mum. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm usually one of these drunk fucking idiots on a night out. I could have been that horrible person to a homeless person. I could have been, and the amount of times I used to be fucking arrogant and rude because there's a homeless person. Fuck them. Fuck the homeless people. And for many years, I was just angry at everybody. I didn't give a fuck if they was homeless. I didn't give a fuck what my boss said. I didn't give a fuck what even my mum said. All I cared about was sex, violence, drink and drugs. Until I lost loads of jobs, until I started in the mental health side started slipping as well. Because obviously, with all the emotional roller coaster and all that, you're going to get a downside to it. And people don't appreciate that.
No. I know about mental health. Yeah. So,
so after I'd done that first one, I felt good.
Yeah.
But I went back to drinking, drugs and stupidness.
You don't really change yourself.
Exactly, so it took a long time. People will see me now and be like, you never went through that? Bro, you ain't sitting with me when I want to fucking slit my wrist. There's numerous times I've sat in my house and I'm like, go into the kitchen. I'm like, bro, just cut yourself. Just don't go again. And I'm thinking, this is years later from cutting myself in Cornwall. I'm just slit your wrists. And in my head, the only thing I can replay is, you remember the film Scum when the guy cuts his wrists in the bed?
Yeah.
I'm like, if that's the way I can go, I can go.
In the bed.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm like, bro, just do it. And it'd be after cocaine use. That'd be the worst for me.
What, the calm down?
Yeah, the calm down. It'd be 3 days in the bed, just die.
Yeah.
Just do yourself. Take a load of tablets, die.
The voices kick in and well, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, and I just didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't care about nothing. The only thing that kept me going was, I don't want my mum to find me like this. And it's just my mum, you know, my family. I love them all dearly, but I would hate the thought of my mum walking in and finding her son dead. And that's one of the things that stopped me doing it.
So let's talk more about the changing point. So obviously that's like you sort of, when I've said it, that's the first thing to come to you is when you first took up the stuff, like the two bags. But obviously you've gone back to sort of drinking drugs, right? So how? Let's talk about the change process. Obviously it wasn't like an overnight thing. There was a bit of a process. Tell me about this process.
Yeah, I mean, I used to just be a dick to women as well. I've had like 3 relationships at one time, and I put a lot of women through shit, and they've always tried to help. And then you get friends who fuck it up as well. But the coming off the drinking drugs, it was just a slow process. I couldn't just always say no to a night out, and it wasn't until fairly recently I was like, fuck, I should have gave this up many years ago. But yeah, it was a slow process changing and becoming a better person. But there's still a side to me that I'd always pick a night out with the lads than I would sitting at home. And that affects me a lot recently. But yeah, it was a slow process, and helping others was hard. But I started a non-profit organisation, so I was into like rap. Being into rap, as we were talking earlier, I think rap really influences people, and especially this drill music.
Like I said, I was in the papers. I was in the papers. I went in on drill music, like saying that I believe it is. I'll let you go. It is influential.
Massively. Everything you listen to, everything you watch, people you hang around with, they influence you all the time. They're feeding your mind.
Scarface influenced me as a kid. I say but you grow up watching these sort of films and I wanted to be Tony Montana.
If you go and talk to a load of fucking criminals and be like, "What's your favourite films?" Most of them are going to say Goodfellas, Scarface, Sopranos. These are all the films they watch. If you go and talk to people like who's successful and that, be like, "Nah, I don't watch films. I read books." And you're like, "All right," so they're influenced through that, and they're influenced through books, and yeah, books changed my life as well. But yeah, it was. I started the organisation because I wanted to be a rapper. I was listening to loads of rap music, which made me very negative.
Who did you listen to?
Benny Banks, K Coke, and back then it was Joe Black. So I was listening to all this. I was like, yeah, all right, sell drugs. And when I was working at a glass factory, I was selling drugs. I was selling weed, which was great for me because during the week they would all tick weed off of me. When it come to Friday payday, I'd get my payday and I'd get theirs. And I'd go around the factory and I'd be like, right, everybody else can give me your money, plus I got my money, I'm good. I didn't sell drugs for too long, 6 months maybe.
What would you say, weed?
Yeah, just weed really, so nothing massive, but yeah, I was still listening to all this shit. But then when I started the organisation, well, it wasn't an organisation, at first it was me pretending I was a rapper. I was really shit. Oh shit. The lyrics are alright, but the flow was shit, and I couldn't do it. And I come also to this, you see some of those videos, you're like, fucking hell, are they serious? And that would be me. I had some lyrical people around me, but then we joined together and we started doing this rap stuff, and I was like, right, I'm terrible at this, I'm cutting.
Yeah.
But then I started doing the social media side of it. I was like, I'll share it. Oh, mate, I'll make this little video for you. And then that's when I started building up the knowledge on media. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, people like this. And I built there, and then we built a non-profit organisation, and then we did things to the community, and then I started reading more books, educating myself more.
What did you read? What books did you read?
Rich Dad Poor Dad was a big influence for me.
Very good. Yes, I've read that. It was one of the books I read in as well.
Easy read as well, because it's a novel.
Yeah.
So you read it and you get caught up in the story, and then once you finish, you're like, fuck no, that made you think as well. Books like The Goal, The Compound Effect. How to Win Friends and Influence People, like these sort of books that are kind of educational. The Power, The Secret, So all these things, they influence your mind the same way that rap was. the same way the negative people was. And then as I'm reading all these things and learning more about media, I'm doing less drinking drugs. I'm hanging around with people less. So I'm putting more good in and I'm taking more bad out. And over a bit of time, it just kind of outbalanced itself. And I wasn't having drama. I wasn't fighting people anymore. I wasn't massively addicted to this cocaine. You know, I still had this negative thought. I still had these ideas that I wanted to die. And mental health's always been around. But I wasn't living that life anymore. I wasn't always in trouble. I wasn't always getting arrested. I wasn't always known by the police. Every time I walked around the streets getting drunk or fighting people, it would be like, what are you doing tonight? Nothing, officer. Why you keep pointing me out? They point you out because you keep fucking flagging up. That's why. So yeah, you outweigh it. Like you say, you know, if you're putting drill music in all the time, that's all you're going to think about. But if you've read a fucking good educational book, you're going to put some good in. And there's that analogy, if you've got a dirty glass and you keep pouring clean water into it, at some point that glass is going to become clean water.
I know that one, but I like that.
So it was a slow process, but yeah, then I started helping more people. I started helping children with learning difficulties, working with them, working with local youth centres, did loads more homeless help. My ex-girlfriend was a big influence in my life. Me and her was together for a long time, and she was very supportive. Yeah, that was it.
That's part. So you were saying earlier, like, obviously, so now you're doing. So now you've got all this going on. You're helping. It's just solidating it. It's just solidating this sort of mindset now. Because now I see you do a lot of the motivational talking now.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's in your bio you say aspiring. Is it something like
aspiring
motivational speaker?
Yeah, because I'm not there yet. I'm not. It's the road to success is always under construction. You know, you're never going to be the success because you can always be better. And people got this idea of perfection in their head, and you're never going to get there. You're always building on yourself. But yeah, the motivational talks. Even when I changed my life from doing cocaine every fucking night and drinking every fucking day, even when I changed from that to being more influential or educating myself, I was still scared to put things on camera. So I really wanted to help people and talk to people and be like, you can change. Yeah. And for a long time, I was just a massive fucking dick to my friends because I read books and they didn't. And every time I spoke to my friends, we'd go down the pub. I'd be like, hey, read a book. They'd be like, no, Fatz, shut the fuck up. I'd be like, come on, read a book. And a lot of friends just unfriended me. They're like, you're a dick with it, bro. I don't want to read a fucking book. I'm like, it's changed your life. Come on, bro. We got this together. So I lost a lot of friendships because I was just an arrogant guy. Like, come on, read a book. And I'm putting the education under their nose all the time. They're like, fuck off. I just want to have a pint. So I got quite arrogant with it, and I had to sit back and be like, do you know what? Not a lot of people want to read a book.
So what advice would you give? To guys that are like you, had the same sort of minds that are going through it, but going through difficult times and that as well, and that maybe are thinking about how to get out, but they want to get out, but they don't know how to get out. And I think that's hard. It is. And what advice if you had to sort of talk to your younger self now? It's a deep one.
So being a bouncer now, so obviously I'm a bouncer.
I was going to ask you about that in a second. I was going to ask you about that.
So being a bouncer, a lot of young lads I see that was going through the same shit I'm going through. They're out all the week, every weekend. They're on the coke. You can see they're on the coke. Like, I'm a bouncer. I'm not stupid. You're coming up with your eyeballs pinging. I know you're on the fucking sniff. But yeah, they'll say to me on the slide, like, Fatz, I watch your videos. I really want to change my life. Bro, you're out doing the things that you want to change. Like, you don't have to fuck off all your friends. You do just need to bring some goodness into your life. Whether it's a book, a video, you start making new friends, you bring some fun. Yeah. So it's hard, but you just need to slowly transition. And a lot of people think that you can't do it because you've got to fuck off with your friends, you've got to be alone forever. You don't. You know who's good for you, you know who's bad for you. And I'd say to people, how you feel around someone, that tells you how much that friendship means to you. Because if you feel like you don't want to be at the pub, if you feel like you don't want to do that cocaine, and your friend's saying to you, oh, you had a rough week, here's a bag. That friend don't give a fuck about your mental health. That friend don't give a fuck about your relationship. That friend don't give a fuck about you. They're giving you cocaine or more alcohol that's going to carry on making your mental health worse. That's going to fuck up your relationship. It's going to fuck up your job. And then you're going to call them a friend. That's nuts. And for years and years, whether I was sitting in some fucking drug den or I was fucking somebody's baby mum or doing cocaine in the morning or doing cocaine at work at the factory or drinking while I'm at Sports Direct, whatever it was, I thought they were friends around me because they were giving me the alcohol, they were giving me the drugs, or we was getting it together, we was getting fucked up together.
It's not a real friend.
Yeah, but these friends have helped me lose jobs. These friends have helped me lose good people in my life. These friends have helped me lose, decent relationships. These friends have helped me stay unhealthy, and it is. You look at the people around you and you realise that they're not friends.
Mm.
If you're crying alone at night and then your friend says, let's get a fucking bag in, that's some bullshit. And if your friend knows you're on antidepressants and then they say about a fucking bag, that's some bullshit. And we all know it.
Mm.
Yet we accept it because we don't want to feel alone, or we will feel alone or segregated from that group of friends.
It's real talk, bro. It's real talk.
It's fucked up. And I see the young lads who come up to me when I'm working the doors and they're like, I need a change. I'm like, look, send me an inbox. And there's been a lot of people in Eastbourne that have reached out, like, I'm suicidal, Fatz. Because I talk about my suicidal shit.
No, I've seen it.
It's there's been times that, quite recently that I haven't spoke to people about it, but I was working at Crowbar doing a security shift. And on my birthday, I was so depressed and upset not long ago because I kept thinking about my ex and I just hated life, and my cousin had a serious crash. And I was working in Crowbar's a couple months back on my birthday, 16th of March. I was so upset that I got back in my car after the shift and I started crying. I was like, I can't do this. I just want to die. So instead of doing that, I drove to Brighton and I went and found 2 homeless people and I bought them a Subway because I know it would make their night better. I gave them some money and then I drove home and I was like, alright, that's nice. And another time I drove back from Crowbar and I said, I want to die. So I went and drove to Beachy Head and I just the park, but the parking bays that are right near the cliff pass, and you get out and you can't really see, but I'm walking over the hills and I'm like, bro, I'm crying to myself like, I just want to go. I can't do it anymore.
I've been there, bro. I've been there.
Yeah.
I know many people watching now, like some people mask it, some people tend it, because a lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of us men, we go through it. Women out there, all sorts of different ages, we go through it and we think about it, and that's why it's important. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
It is easy. I did a post the other day saying, I dip and all that. People look, just I've come out and they think I've all smashed it and doing all this, but I'm still going through it. I still sit there and think, I'm not what I'm doing is not good enough, or what I'm doing is struggling. I'm still sitting down with myself. I've got my fight pressures and it's difficult. And it's easy to sit there and think, I don't need to be. I mean, what the fuck am I doing this for? You know what I mean? It's real, bro. It is real.
A lot of friends to me, the close ones to me, they see I turn to the drink as well. So I kept thinking about my ex and how I fucked up an amazing relationship there. With my cousin going into hospital, my nan with the Alzheimer's, and me just thinking terrible about myself. I was drinking most nights and I was just eating calms tablets. This is only a couple months back. But at the same time, I'm smiling on TikTok, making sure everybody's happy. I'm telling jokes to people who come into, because I'm all about.
I've seen the jokes. I've seen the jokes as I walk into the store.
Yeah.
I've seen them. I've been following you for a while, bro. I've been following you for a while.
I just want to make sure everybody's happy. But sometimes, you're giving from an empty cup, and I'm smiling at people 12 hours a day, making sure they're smiling, saying hello to customers, and being that really happy, positive person. But sometimes you just break inside and you suffer alone, and a lot of people said to me like, bro, you're not well. And it's you break down, you fall on the floor, you cry, and I was crying every day, and it's fucking hard sometimes. And like I said, I parked up Beachy Head, I walked across the cliffs, I just died, and I'm like, nah, I can't let my mum down. And then it's kind of, I need to do this for my mum and do this for my family. I can't just do that, I can't hurt them. And that was it really, it's always them, it's always the family. But yeah, I just got dependent on drink, got dependent on any sleeping tablets or calms tablets or anything I could get my hands on that would calm me down. I just didn't want to touch cocaine or harder drugs because I know that would just tip me over the edge. Yeah, that's gonna fucking kill me anyway. Because anything after that, I'm done. Did
you ever see yourself becoming a doorman?
Never. No, I was a scared little kid. I always liked the idea of being a doorman because it's a big hard man. And when I started putting on size, so I started going to the gym about 18 and started putting on a bit of size. I'm like, if I'm big enough, people will leave me alone and I won't get bullied anymore because I was always scared of getting bullied. So I started putting on size. But becoming a doorman, I wanted to do it years ago, but my cousin, who was like my brother, we grew up really close. He actually got 3 offences in London in my name, and I couldn't get it off my record. And if you go to being a doorman, you can't have more than 2 offences within a 5-year period or something like that for the SIA. So years and years ago, I wanted to do it. I'm talking 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But they was like, nah, you've got too many offences, don't worry. So I did the course, the 3-day course, and just didn't go for the SAA. I was like, fuck it, there's no point spending 250. But yeah, the other one, I just went and did the course. Someone rang me up and said, hey, Fatz, do you want to go be a doorman at Cameo? I was like, no, I don't want to be employed, because I've been self-employed for years. I'm like, I'm never going to have a boss again. I'm a shit employee. They're like, no, you're still self-employed, and it'd just be really easy. And as soon as I got there, I just really gelled with everybody. I really had a good time. And I'm a people person. I love people. You know, I never used to love people. I used to fucking hate everybody, want to fight everybody. But now I'm just really about making people smile, making people happy. And when I got to Cameo and working on the door, I was like, fucking come on, how you doing? You ladies having a good night? I'm like doorman, that's just always a joke. It's not. There's no arrogance, there's no rudeness. I don't care if you're a young lad and you've got an attitude about you. I just want you to have a good night. Yeah. As long as your attitude's not towards me or people in the venue, then have a good night.
Or if they're a wet dog and you know they come into the shop, you're working security, you're brushing. I saw it. I seen the video. I've seen the video.
Yeah,
I've seen the video.
I always do it. Like people leave their dog outside in the rain. I can't do that, man. I don't care what the.
It's I've seen this video. I've seen the video. It was actually from a security tape as well. No. This wet dog, I see you go get a tissue, you wipe this wet dog down.
It was a wet dog and it was raining, and I was like, no way, I'm leaving that dog in the rain. So I bring the dog inside and, you know, wipe the dog down and make sure it's dry, and I do it all the time.
Man. That's proper though. That's great human nature, and that's one of the reasons I had to get on that stage. And I know you're still going through your journey because you spoke about it then, you can see it, but as we all, but I think what you're doing, if you know me, you've seen my stuff, I talk about the ripple effect. And that's obvious because you wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the ripple effect. It's what you're doing, what you're talking, that's what I saw, the things you're putting out there. And even before, I think we should touch on this before rapping. Not literally rapping. I don't think I'll go down. I'm done. But I think there's a bit you were showing me then about the youth work with the kids and that you're doing now, and I think you want to shout them out and just let them know what people are doing.
The KCA, the Kingsby Community Association.
Is that where it is? It's Kingsby.
Yeah, so all the kids around there, we've done like Eastbourne Youth News. I started a youth news because they use my organisation and my company to help do their own media stuff. So they learn about the cameras, they learn about editing, they get to do like little shows, and it's great. I love helping the youth. I love helping the community, and I'd love to go out and do talks with the youth and show them, look, this is a picture of me with tram lines in my hair when I was doing cocaine.
I think I had the lines as well. I think we all did. Massive. People at least will watch like, you like had the hair, like, the tram lines there.
Little bad boy with the tram lines and just off my nut all the time.
I think I had like a whole brick pattern in the back of me. I think I saw that the eyes or something.
Yeah, we used to think you were so
editing that out.
You used to think you were so cool, and back then I just thought I was hard. I was in function rooms and I had all the fucking pattern all over here. I had my eyebrow pierced, my tongue pierced, and I was like, what, bruv, what? And I had like a morning t-shirt on, and everybody looked at me, well, what are you fucking looking at, bruv? And just trying to fight everybody. Like, fucking what an idiot. Yeah.
So where's the future hold then?
For me? Somebody asked me that not long ago on one of my posts, and I was like, do you know what? I don't know when I'm going to go. I could get hit by a car tomorrow. Like, life become very put into perspective when my cousin got hit on the A27. He was back in a prison van that turned over.
Was it?
Yeah, that was my cousin.
No, I know about that.
Yeah, so my cousin was in that. Now he's got permanent brain damage, and I adopted his child at 11 years old, and I raised him till he was 16 years old. So it's always been a close family. But when that happened to him, I was actually on my way to London to see my nan with my friend Owen in the car, and we was going to go to Lewis Way. And when we was going to go that way, we said that the prison van on the radio said it turned over, and we was joking. We was like, somebody tried to escape. That's nuts. Carrying on to London, I get a phone call from my mum. They're like, he's done. Bradley's gone. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, bro, we don't know if he's dead or alive. I was like, what, my cousin? Like, yeah, that's still cousin I grew up with. That I said was like brother to me, and I was raising his child, and I was like, fuck. And then for me, it was like, how the fuck can that happen? How was I nearly going down that road? How can that be my cousin? How can it happen like that? And then I get to my nan's, and then my mum saying, don't tell her nothing yet, because it'll break nan's heart. Let's find out what's happening. I was driving back to Eastbourne, and then we get a phone call. My mum's just crying on the phone, and then I had to pull over the car, and I thought it was done. But luckily he just got brain damage and we could visit him and he's still alive and he's slowly coming back. But then, man, that in my head I'm like, fucking hell, life's so precious. Life can be so taken in an instant. So then that's what made me think, before I go, I've got to try and make as many people happy as possible. I've got to try and help as much as possible. And I love meeting new people. I love doing new things. I love putting out a positive message. But yeah, life's so fucking short.
It
If,
is.
like, if you've got somebody in your life and they need something to you, you've got to tell them. You've got to be with them. You've got to go and do that. You've got to take the risk. You've got to chase a dream. Right? You don't know when you're going to go and you don't know when that person's going to go.
So many people holding grudges and all this, that, the other, the negative, man. It is real talk, but don't know when it is. You don't know how long we're here for. You know, that's one of the things I said the other day on the post and that. Do you know what I mean? I don't know when I'm going to be gone. That's why I'm out here. I'm chasing it because I'm not wasting any time.
No.
You know, I lost a lot of my life. That's why going forward, I come into this world, I put so many negative ripple effects out there.
Yeah.
And I'm doing everything I can to put a positive. And that's what I had to get you on today, Fatz, because I think you're an inspiration with guy. Like I say, I know we're from the same town, but we never sort of really met. I know there's one, but it's not worth talking about because it's a negative one.
Yeah.
But that's our past lives. But I think what you're doing is amazing. And that's why I had to get you on. And I think you're real, and I said you talk from the heart. And I think a lot of people could take a leaf out of your book, and you're inspiring, bro, on what you're doing. And I know you say inspiring motivational talk, and I hope this, you know, coming on right here, you know, it can contribute to whatever future plans that you're doing. And I'm going to keep following your journey, and I'm always going to be here to support my bro.
Thank you, man.
And if you want to teach any of them kids any podcasts, then you ever need me to come down and, you know, we need to
some podcasts.
some future generation podcasters, I'll be there, you know, especially Kingsville. I've always got love for these one.
Definitely, the more youth work, I want to get more people involved, like yourself and Phil Chandler as well. Like people who've been down the same sort of like negative paths, and we've been able to change it around, and we need more of that. And it's hard, but you know, it's nice to see yourself changing your life around and inspiring people. You know, you're doing exactly the same thing, but you know, you've gone through a lot more.
Emotions, we'll go through them, but man, it's the situation. That's my brother.
Thank you very much, bro.
That's real, bro. It's powerful, man.